Hey, Rob Wilson in for Amy-Hockert today. A pretty important story to talk about here. An outbreak of botulism in babies tied to a popular baby formula. That outbreak continued to grow this week, and officials are warning that the formula, which is called ByHeart Whole Nutrition Infant Formula, is in fact in some cases still being found on store shelves despite a nationwide recall. So be mindful of that. There are now 31 cases across 15 states, including Minnesota, and every infant that has gotten sick from this has needed to be hospitalized. Scary headline. Parents' concerns, of course, climb. We want to walk you through what they should be watching out for, the risks, the realities here with a local expert. So joining us here today is Dr. Jessica Larson, a pediatrician with M Health Fairview. Thank you for being here, because certainly to add context to what can be kind of a scary headline for sure here, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, anytime you hear about babies being hospitalized, it gets everyone's attention, especially when it's something so commonly used like formula. So,
well, absolutely. Let's start with some background on botulism, what it is, and specifically then infant botulism.
Yeah, so infant botulism is a really specific form of botulism that has to do with just kind of the immaturity of the infant gut. So we only see infant botulism in children under the age of 1 and actually typically under the age of 6 months. They get it from ingesting the botulism spores. Older guts can handle those spores okay, but the infant gut can't. And so when those spores are ingested, then they can grow and in the gut, and then ultimately the spores produce the botulism toxin, which then leads to botulism disease. And so older people over the age of 1 can ingest those spores and don't have that issue. It's just that particular age group that has a hard time.
Yeah, their gut system, I guess, isn't ready to deal with those kind of things. So what? Well, first of all, let's put it in context here. When you have 31 cases in 15 states, that's 1 is too many. That's a lot. You put it in context though of the risk, considering the number of infants out there and the amount of formula. I mean, how do you tell parents how to kind of put this into context for their children?
So it's still very, very rare. In the United States, we typically see less than 100 to 200 cases at the most in a typical year. We do see it, but it's very, very rare. It's actually exceedingly rare to get from formula. Generally, when we do see botulism in infants, it's tied to things like the ingestion of honey or raw milk or homemade infant formula that hasn't been prepared in a safe way. And even this ByHeart formula only represents about 1% of the formula out there on shelves in the United States right now. So it's very rare. And so most families do not need to worry about this. Now, if your baby has used the ByHeart Whole Nutrition formula, but doesn't have any symptoms, right now health experts are just recommending that they obviously don't use the formula anymore, but do hold on to it for about 30 days. If your child does develop symptoms, then we could go back and look at that formula and see if it was potentially tainted. Okay,
well then let's talk about what symptoms you should be watching out for.
Yeah. So the botulism is what we call a descending flaccid paralysis. And so it starts from the head and it kind of works its way down the body. Some families looking back might in retrospect realize that their baby had a little bit of constipation. That's a common first symptom, but constipation in infants is really common. And so just because your baby has constipation does not mean they have botulism. Other things that you would start to notice would be poor feeding, a very weak suck, a poor swallow. The face might start to look kind of droopy or flat, almost like not a normal facial expression. You might see the eyelids drooping a little bit or the head getting kind of floppy. And then as botulism moves down the body, then the rest of the body becomes floppy. As botulism moves to the chest wall and the diaphragm, that's when it becomes more dangerous because babies can start having a difficult time breathing. And so many babies that do end up hospitalized do end up on respiratory support.
What's the time frame of these symptoms, their appearance and then the time frame to seek help?
Yep. So it can vary. You can see symptoms as soon as 3 days after ingestion, up to about a month after, and so that's why that 1 month mark of holding onto the formula is so important. So in that kind of 1 week to 4 week time frame.
Okay, and then if you do have this product, is there additional steps you should take in addition to not using it anymore? I mean, are there other items that the infant may have touched that could be contaminated? What are the recommendations?
Yeah, exactly. So if you have been using this formula at home, we're recommending that just anything that might have come into contact with the formula, like bottles and bottle nipples and that kind of thing, everything should be washed well in hot soapy water, and then should be safe to use again.
Okay. And then in the overall topic of baby formula, this might cause some skepticism or concern about baby formula in general. What do you tell your parents about the safety and efficacy of baby formula?
We're lucky in our country. Our baby formula is generally very safe. It's an industry that's really closely monitored by the FDA. Any formula that's sold in the United States, including formulas that might be from other countries, anything that's going to be sold in the United States is supposed to register and then submit to FDA testing and approval. And they have standards both for nutrition as well as for safety. And so, I do caution families, again, if you're buying something online and you're not exactly sure, if it's not a major vendor like Amazon or Target or Walmart or something, maybe you might want to check and make sure it's approved. But if it's a kind of U.S.-based group that is sending, selling even a Canadian or a European formula, those likely have been registered and approved by the FDA. But if you're not sure, it's always good to check. And then, like I mentioned before, again, we don't recommend homemade formulas, especially those made with raw milk or sweetened with honey. Those are not safe and potentially could be contaminated with botulism spores. Okay,
well, I think that kind of covers it, unless you have any last thoughts of anything we missed here.
No, I don't think so. We're hopeful that the investigation will sort this out, and hopefully no more babies are sickened, and this will end soon.
Okay. So. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate your insight. Always good to get again the larger context of the reality of the risk, but the safety steps to take. All right. There you go.